Hi and welcome to this course, which is 10 top tips on tackling time. So let me explain a little bit about that title. My aim is to give you 10 tips. Basically the idea is that you can adapt and adopt these into your everyday life. They're quite simple, quite straightforward, and some might say common sense. But the idea is that you pick the ones that fit into your lifestyle. This isn't about shoehorning in somebody's brilliant idea on how to do something that basically isn't sustainable because it's not part of your life. If you think about time in general, it's fairly finite. You can't make more. You can't really save it. It's going to continue whether you try and stop it or not. So I think that the aim of this course, really is about how you use it better. How you can stop doing things that waste your time, stop doing things that eat into your time, and find ways to be more productive and get more out of life, really. So a little bit about me. Just to give you some background, I've worked in learning and development in a kind of business sense for many years, from all aspects, from admin, budget, through to design and development and delivery. And one of the things that keeps coming up time and time again is time management, how to handle it better, how to manage your diary, various topics, every permutation that you can think of. But basically what it comes down to is, how do I manage my time better? As a freelancer now, time management has to be my number one priority, because basically every minute of every hour of every day that I work is billable. It has to generate some form of income. So for me, it is the number one top priority. And I think that's one of the reasons why I came up with this course. Is these are some of the tips that I actually put into practice on a daily basis. What I want to do is try and instill them into other people. But as I've said at the start of this introduction, really pick the ones that you know are sustainable, the ones that you can actually put into practice and adopt. Some of the others you might be able to adapt in some way, shape or form, things like time chunking or looking at time audits and analysis and that kind of thing, and look at how potentially you can customize these to make them yours. So to give you an idea of how the course is structured, I know the title actually talks about 10 top tips, but there are only actually 5 modules in the course. In each of the module you will find 2 tips, and what I've tried to do is marry 2 together in a module that actually makes some sense, so they potentially lead one into the other. You'll see that as you kind of work through and see the titles. The other thing I've tried to do as well is create some downloadables for you, so there'll be PDFs, and kind of package it as a little bit of a workbook for you to look at, and again adopt and adapt. So just because I've designed it this way doesn't mean you have to kind of use it that way. You can tinker with it as much as you want. The other thing as well is some kind of handy infographics, which are just a bit of a module overview for you to take away as well. So once you finish the module, you should be able to see the infographic that will go through each of those topics as well. So, all right, let's start your course. Now let's start with tip number 1, a time audit. So what is a time audit? It's simply a way to capture where you spend your time in one place, making the next module so much easier as you analyse it and make some changes. Keep it simple, don't overcomplicate the process. You really don't need any fancy forms, but feel free to use the ones I'm supplying if you want to. I use simple sticky notes usually. They work for me as I can make note on the task, the times it's taken, anything other details I want to add, and then in the next module I can move them around and batch them so that I can see trends. Being honest is paramount here. You really need to see the true picture before you can progress. So how do you go about conducting a time audit? Once you've decided how you're going to capture your information, You then need to decide how long you collect the data for. And my suggestion would be for about 4 weeks, although a week might get you some results, but what you're looking for are trends, so the longer the better. So when it comes to actually how you capture your information, I just use a daily planner as well, because it helps me see my tasks in one place, along with things like calls and meetings and my to-do list. And it also fits nicely in with undertaking an audit too. It helps you track everything. These are some examples of the forms you can use. They're easily copied and you can draw them up in most software packages. So now you've agreed the details, you've agreed your timescales, you've agreed your method of capturing your data. Now what you need to do is get on and do it. But of course, we're talking priorities here. So first, make yourself a coffee. Okay, so you've done the first part, which is your time audit. And the whole point of that is that it's going to make this next bit a bit easier. So imagine trying to remember what you've been doing for the last 4 weeks in detail without any notes. It's pretty impossible to do, but not if you've done the audit piece properly and honestly. So the analysis part of this allows you to spot trends, batch tasks, and look at how long you spend on each task. A good example would be to see how often you check your emails across a day, a week, or a month. Is that really a good use of your time? Does checking them every 10 minutes really use your time effectively or efficiently? Or would it be better to agree to check them every 2 to 3 times a day? Out of an 8-hour working day, you could be spending at least an hour answering emails, filing mail, deleting mail, but batching that task into 2 or 3 time slots can make you more efficient. It can cut down on the time you spend and also stop you procrastinating. So, get your results, sit down, don't panic, and let's start. So, how are you going to capture the results from this analysis? That's something that you need to look at. And as I think I've mentioned before, I tend to use things like either post-it notes, which means this bit is a lot easier because if you've got a task on a post-it note that says email, you can batch all of those together. If you've got one that says phone calls, you can batch all of those together. And then you can see sort of roughly how long you spend on them and at what point during the day. Now, what I tend to do is just add those to an A4 piece of paper. I'm a bit old school, but a spreadsheet might work, a piece of paper might work. It's really up to you on what works best for you. Don't try and shoehorn somebody else's process into the way that you work. Everybody's different, and that's a good thing. So my advice would be to simply go through each day, week and month and note down the task titles: emails, inbox, phone calls, meetings, report writing. Try to avoid being too generic, because we do want to batch like tasks with like. So if it's emails, is it answering emails? Is it filing emails? Is it cleaning up your inbox and deleting emails? That kind of detail does help. Once you feel you've got all the titles or tasks written down, then go back through the audit and start adding in the time taken, because that's what we're looking for here, is how long did each of these tasks take. And once you're happy that you've done that, now it's time to look for solutions. So I always look for things that I've been doing over that period of time that I really don't need to do. Things that you could either delegate to somebody else or potentially even say no to, but you said yes because you might have 5 minutes on your hands, but actually that 5 minutes could be better spent somewhere else. And also, are you the right person to do it? So should you actually be suggesting somebody else? So rather than delegate it to somebody in your team because it does sit with you, potentially it could actually sit with some other team and it isn't you that needs to be doing this in the first place. This kind of clears some of the clutter for you, so it gets rid of the easy stuff. It's the low-hanging fruit, as the phrase goes. Now we want to look at things like meetings. So what meetings could actually have been an email or a phone call or even a quick video call. And the one thing that comes out of this analysis is being aware of these things in the future. And it's learning to spot these and make sure that you do the right thing next time they come up. Then what you want to do is look at how you batch tasks. So it's about diarising time across your week or your day to actually complete these. So again, going back to emails is a great one. For me personally, what I tend to do is emails first thing in the morning, lunchtime and afternoon or early evening. But rather than keep going in and feeling that you've got to answer something just because it's dropped into your inbox. Another top tip, turn off the alerts in something like Outlook so that you don't keep seeing them pop up at the bottom of the screen. It's just in the settings. Please do it because it stops you getting distracted. Okay, so basically in your analysis, what you're looking for are trends. The solutions come in the next batch of tips. So thank you very much. So for tip number 3, let's look at how you say no. How often have you had to say yes when asked to do a task or take on some more work? Let's be honest here, it's happened to most of us more than once. Let's look at how you can manage this, and as a result, manage your time too. So first up, be brutally honest. Don't set yourself up to fail by knowing at the very start that you can't do it. Be frank, let whoever's requesting it know, but let them know why. Give your reasons. Anyone would appreciate your honesty, so don't be shy. Sometimes it's easier said than done, admittedly, but this does depend on who is asking and why. It may be a case of suggesting someone more suited to the task. So, for example, if your CEO asks you to do something, and it may be someone who doesn't have a detailed view of what you're able to do or your current workload. So tread carefully when you're saying no. This one seems like a very simple one, but again, it comes back to being honest. You need to confess if you're being asked to do something and you really don't have the skills. Honesty first, be upfront and explain. No one will force you to undertake a project you really can't complete, as they won't want it to overrun or fail either. So I don't know about you, but saying no always feels so final, and sometimes it can cause offence. So why not try this? Try saying yes if instead. The idea being that you can undertake the task or take on the project if certain things are agreed and provided to enable you to do this. So for example, it could be extra resources, it could be additional headcount or support, and it's a rethink of the task itself. The list is endless, but puts the onus back on the requester to re-evaluate the task in light of your polite pushback. And the final tip here is all about timing. If you have the skills, the resources and the ability to take on the task, but are pushed for time, again, be honest and ask to agree a new deadline. Honesty pays. And now, time for a cuppa. Okay, so it's time to address the elephant in the room for tip number 4. Multitasking doesn't work. And I've read all the jokes about being a man and not being able to multitask, but being quite frank, it's got nothing to do with the agenda. It's the ability to actually complete tasks on time, within budget, to everybody's satisfaction. Multitasking is not the answer. No one can do this and succeed. If you want to do something right, solo tasking is actually the future. Simply concentrating on a single task has multiple benefits for you and the task. How often have you approached a task, looking forward to it 100%, putting in 100%, only to be handed another and another and another, and trying to juggle them with multiple deadlines? Basically, it's like trying to herd cats. You really can't do it. So, linking solo tasking into something like mindfulness, this is where I think solo tasking comes into its own. It allows you to focus solely on the task in hand, what's in front of you. Multitasking really has had its day. Trying to show your boss or your client that you can concentrate on several things at once and achieve 100% is impossible to do, and ends up showing nobody anything. It actually makes you feel worse. So the new frontier is simply doing one thing at a time, doing it well, achieving results, and ensuring you get that feel-good factor of achieving something once it's done. How often do you get that feeling of satisfaction when you tick something off your to-do list because it's 100% complete? Basically, just saying, I did that. I mentioned earlier about mindfulness, and I think of that like a form of meditation. You concentrate on a single task, it helps you relax your mind, it helps you focus on what you're doing and release all the babble and the chatter and the hustle and bustle that goes on in your head, from your phone, from your emails, all day, every day. A good example of this is something like washing the pots. So washing the pots, what's your aim? You fill the bowl, you put the pots in the bowl, and then you're cleaning the pots, put them on the drainer to dry. While you're doing that, your hands are wet. You can't be doing other things. You can't be typing emails. You can't be scrolling through your phone. You are just looking at what's in front of you. You are concentrating on that single task. And while you're doing that, your mind wanders. It's like resetting your brain. That's the way I look at it, and that's why I love washing the pots. I do not want a dishwasher. I know it sounds really silly. If you apply that to a work task, so for example, say it's a report or replying to an email with data and that kind of thing, you're giving 100% to that, so that when you hit send on that email or when you send the report, you can pretty much hand on heart say that you've given it 100%, that you are confident that what you've done is the best work you have been able to do, because you haven't been trying to answer emails, pick up video calls, answer queries from your team. You've been concentrating on that one task, and that's at the essence what solo tasking is all about. Give it a go. It's really simple, not complicated. I'm sure there's benefits there for you. Okay, for tip number 5, this is going to sound a bit weird. Tip number 5 is about the benefits of wasting time. Sometimes you kind of have to agree that time wasted is time well spent. How often have you binge watched a series or read a book cover to cover but felt like you haven't achieved anything because it wasn't on your to-do list? Sometimes we need to give ourselves a break and agree that time spent on these kind of things, or things like colouring books for adults, that they're not wastes of time. You need them to, again, as we've said before, reset your clock a little bit. Your brain needs to relax as much as your body does, and having some kind of fun or some form of fun or doing something that isn't necessarily seen as productive helps with that, and it allows you to hit that reset button and come back from it refreshed. I find that doing something that is totally unrelated to my job or any work I'm doing helps. Linking it back to the mention on the previous module about mindfulness, even binge watching something on your favourite channel can be mindful, because the rest of the world doesn't exist, your to-do list doesn't exist, you're concentrating and focusing what's in front of you, and whether that's Game of Thrones, Downton Abbey, whatever it kind of tickles your fancy, it works for you, and that's what matters. So when you're doing nothing, your brain has a chance to recharge and stop focusing so hard. My tip is allow yourself to do this in your own time, but a word of warning. So it gets too easy to adopt this as a habit and get carried away. So be careful with it. Something that springs to mind, for example, is social media. So sometimes social media can be just that whole switch off thing by scrolling through, whether it's Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, whatever. Sometimes just scrolling through, seeing what the rest of the world is up to, can be quite relaxing because you don't have to engage with it. It's like being a voyeur, I suppose. You are on the outside looking in to some extent. You don't have to kind of let everybody know what your viewpoint is. You can just read, watch, whatever. But again, word of warning, I mean, I've done it myself where I've kind of logged into one of these platforms and before I know it, 2 hours have gone. And I don't know where they've gone. And yes, I'm saying that you do need to do this sometimes, but occasionally, maybe just keep one eye on the clock as well. All right, enjoy. So we've looked at how wasting time can be quite beneficial, but now let's look at the opposite and look at investing time in you. Taking some time to invest in you and your skills, both in and out of work, is time well spent. It helps you stop all the chatter, all the distractions, and lets you focus on what's important in life, you. This can be something like shadowing somebody at work to better understand their role and how it impacts on you. It can be sitting with somebody while they show you a simple formula in a spreadsheet that will revolutionise your work. Or reading a book, learning a language, listening to a new podcast on your commute. The list is endless. So let's look at some of the options, and this list is by no means prescriptive. I've tended to focus on digital options. These seem to be the most accessible to the widest audience, data plans allowing, of course. So let's look at e-learning, long thought of to be the poor relation to the traditional face-to-face learning or training, but it's now coming up fast. And the reason for this? The content is now so good. The tools available allow makers to get their courses out there are amazing and accessible to all, and the variety of platforms allowing the costs to tumble. There are lots of options now, and even traditional bastions of learning are moving online and offering courses. There are more and more free options too, so do yourself a favour and do a search. But first think of what you want to learn, and why. Now let's look at reading, that most traditional of learning methods. The usual battle has been waged over traditional paper-based versus digital for a while now, and it seems to have settled down as both sides live side by side, and neither are going anywhere soon. I tend to concentrate on digital for the most part, as I like the ability to have a wide variety of topics in my library, from trashy novels to heavyweight tomes on interesting subjects, but others may not agree. I like the variety too, as it's not just books available these days. There are several options for reading magazines and newspapers online too. The prices reflect this, so it can be cheaper than buying the traditional paper version, but the digital can also help shore up paper, so you're doing your bit to help businesses either way. And as for other online resources, don't neglect things like your streaming services. They tend to be loaded with documentary content other than your usual blockbusters. Social media companies are offering learning too, so check out your favourites and see what's on offer. And then we come back to traditional face-to-face options. Classes are a great way to learn and also be social, make friends, connections and share ideas. But don't forget that these can be in actual classrooms or virtually. Again, the online classrooms have moved on a lot since they were first launched and can give as good an experience as actual classrooms. Okay, tip number 7. Planning ahead. Simple, or it sounds simple, but let's be quite frank here. Prior planning prevents poor performance. That's kind of the saying, with a little bit of a clean-up. It sounds like a no-brainer, but you'd be surprised how easy it is to forget this one, and before you look at how you plan, you need to think about the kind of person you are and how you work. I liked the idea of things like diaries and planners, but find that I simply don't use them, so sometimes I will go crazy sort of December and buy myself a new diary or a new planner with inserts and all sorts of things, everything you can think of. And then it lies empty for 12 months and then gets recycled. I do something similar with apps, so I'm quite a techie, I suppose. So I love things like the apps that you can get that structure your day or structure your month or structure your year, and then forget that I've got them and tend not to use them, and then go back to good old sticky notes. The tools that work best for me are simply basically an online calendar to map meetings and send details out to people, which comes with a lot of email software. So, for example, Outlook. The way that Outlook kind of integrates with a calendar works perfectly for me because I get alerts. I know what my calendar looks like. Everybody in my business uses it, so it's easy for me to actually manage from there, and then I can integrate things like Zoom meetings and team meetings and all that kind of thing through there with links. So it works for me and it helps me structure my day because I can see at a glance where I have gaps, where I have the ability to do tasks. Alongside that, I actually use a simple week to view write-up sheet, which is about A3 in size, has various kind of slots on it, but it allows me to kind of write up what I'm going to be doing on a Monday to Friday. There's space in there for Saturday and Sunday as well, so I can structure in some me time, so as I'm working my way through the week I actually have something to look forward to. There's spaces there for notes, tasks, all of that kind of stuff. So on one sheet in front of me I can actually see what my week looks like, what my main tasks are, and as I achieve them, get that feel-good factor of being able to tick them off and say these are done. My sound advice really for you is find a tool that works for you, whether that's online, whether it's an app, whether it's a piece of paper, whether it's post-it notes. Find something that fits your personality that you're going to continue with. And it may be that there's a bit of trial and error in there, but something will work and stick and will help you with your planning. Next up, plan, and plan again. Give yourself a view of your upcoming week. That allows you to see where you have time to spend on the other things that you need to do. Planning is also about pausing before you accept those meeting requests that come through. Don't just say yes when it pops into your inbox. Check your diary first and just make sure that it fits in with what you need to do and when you need to do it. And as we said in various other tips, assess that meeting and just make sure that your contribution to it is valued, is right, so you are the right person to be there, and also that it couldn't just be an email exchange. Planning doesn't just have to be about meetings and phone calls either, so think about the tasks that you need to complete in a week. What do you want to get done? How do you want to do it? And when do you want to do it? So your time is yours, spend it wisely. You no doubt have things that you need to achieve and complete each week, we all do, but don't lose sight of these. Don't be reactive, be proactive. Now let's look at time chunking. This is a really simple tip, but one that people overlook. A little bit of prep can help so much with time management. This tip is my personal favourite. My diary can get overrun with meetings, calls, etc., and there can appear to be little time to actually do your job and achieve the project's objectives and tasks you're involved in. So I tend to block out regular chunks of time for myself and use these to undertake the things that I need to do and need to achieve. I call it me time, but you need to be careful what you call these, because if other people can see your diary, some of the titles might give them the feeling that they can just override your productive time. So word your appointment carefully and protect it. Email, the bane of modern life, but they really don't need to be. As an introvert, I prefer this mode of communication as it allows me to mull and reply in my own time, rather than just be put on the spot. But you don't need to be constantly checking your emails or reply as soon as they drop into your inbox. Instead, plan a couple of times each day when you will concentrate on replying to emails and clear that inbox. Personally, I do it first thing so that I can answer emails that have come in overnight. I do it before lunch to clear that morning's emails, and then I'll do it mid-afternoon to keep on top of things. And if you factor in some time chunking me time, you can then answer the simple ones during your email time, but concentrate on the ones who need a lengthier reply or more work done during your me time. This way you have control of your time and day and are truly being proactive rather than reactive. So managing your meetings. How many of us get invited to face-to-face or virtual meetings that we don't need to attend? And let's look at the reasons. Number one is about, are you the right person in the first place? If they haven't given you enough details about the meeting, then ask for more details before agreeing, and then you can figure out if you're the right person, and if you're not, suggest somebody else. If you can contribute remotely, do so. Supply an update ahead of the meeting for them to consider, but you might not actually need to be there. And one other suggestion is to send someone on your behalf, a huge development piece for somebody within your team. Finally, manage your diary. So potentially agree on time slots for meetings and only accept during these times. This does depend on a few details such as who's inviting you in the first place, but you might need to be more flexible here. But it's a way of working for when you're trying to schedule meetings yourself. Screening your calls. So a huge tip here. Voicemail is your new best friend. Phones are a major part of our lives and they aren't going anywhere soon. But you do need to find a way of managing how you use them, how they fit into your working week. Make an agreement with yourself that your phone is only used during core working hours. I know that some people are on call, so it doesn't work for all. But where possible, switch it off when you're out of work. It saves your battery and saves you having to charge it. And if you set up voicemail, it will capture your calls quickly. Again, find time slots during the week where you'll return calls and reply via email, maybe using some of that me time. So this is a simple one, and one that uses your information from the audit and analysis piece. It's about batching tasks. Now that you know how you spend your time, work on your diary skills and allocate times throughout the day or week to do similar tasks. Something like doing all your printing in one go. It could be done on a Wednesday morning when it's quiet. Expenses could be done every Friday afternoon. Team meetings or one-to-ones with the team could be done on a chosen afternoon. It's cleaner and less chaotic. And finally, anyone for coffee? So this tip is about you and what your preferences are, so don't be shy and be honest. Are you a morning or afternoon person? So do you spring out of bed early and raring to go when the sun comes up, or are you wide awake after lunch kind of person? I truly believe there are AM or PM people out there. I know that I'm an AM person, and I'm happy to log into work at 7 AM each day, get my tasks done and be logged out by 4 o'clock so that I can relax and actually get on with my life. That's how I work best, but I can be flexible enough to work later if and when I need to. None of this stuff is written in stone. I've found my best time to do tasks is early morning, and one of the reasons is that most people I deal with aren't up or in work, so I can send emails, sort reports before they come into work, and it's there on their desk ready for them to action and do something with. And the sense of achievement for me is amazing. But after lunch, I'm more a meetings and repetitive task kind of person, as my concentration slumps and I edge towards a finish time. So which are you, AM or PM? So using the data from your audit can help you use the time chunking method to make sure you do the things that require energy or brain power when you're at your best, and schedule in the things that are less strenuous mentally or energy-wise at the right time. So the main takeaway here is look at your life, look at when you're at your best, when you have the most energy, and use that to your advantage, both inside and outside of work. Okay, final tip, and this is quite an important one. This one's about asking for help. I don't know about you, but a shout for help is far better for you than screaming for help because you've left it too late. You're human, you have frailties, you're allowed to feel stressed, you're allowed to feel overworked, and I can guarantee that no matter what type of role you're in, you'll be all these things at some point during your working life. So how do you handle them? Let's look at what might happen if you don't confront them. Ever had a headache that won't go? Felt that pressure build up to the point your head feels like it's going to explode? That's stress. That's what stress feels like. It's like a veil comes down, and don't allow things to build up to that point and overtake you. That's what we're looking to avoid. Burnout is also a byproduct of too much stress and pressure from workload, and it can manifest itself in many ways. Each person will feel it differently, and it could be just complete lethargy. You cannot get out of bed, or you turn up to work and you are not your usual self. You will bite, you will bark. Stress. Burnout is also that potentially not achieving what you know you can achieve, so not living up to your potential because you're just too much. The thing you need to remember is there is nothing wrong with asking for help. There is nothing weak about saying you're under pressure or feeling stress. To me, it actually shows strength because you're willing to admit that you feel these things. A lot of people just suck it up, and that's not the attitude to have. It's the 21st century. We're all grown-arsed adults. Let's get on with it. Like any medical condition, if you notice things like this early and you do something about it early, things can be okay. But if you try to ignore it, it will build and build until things become a major issue, and a solution can be difficult to find or put in place. So I'd identify somebody you can speak to, and it can be somebody in your team, it can be your partner, it can be somebody outside your team, it can be somebody outside your work. It doesn't have to be somebody that close to you, but somebody that you can outpour to. Because think of it like a bit of a pressure cooker. Doing the talking is actually letting out some of that steam and stopping that pressure build up. Doesn't have to be about solutions. Sometimes with my partner I will say, I do not need a solution from you, and then vent. All I need them to do is just sit there and listen and nod and just go, okay, feel better? And that's what you need sometimes. But asking for help will get you there too, because help means that you need somebody to intervene to help you get to your solution. As I said, that kind of outpouring to somebody else is not about solutions, but asking for help potentially is. So it could be, yes, you want to vent to somebody, but at the same time, your brain is working out a solution as it releases the pressure, and it could be, I cannot get to that deadline without somebody giving me X, Y, or Z. It gives you a little bit of clarity for you to be able to then go, okay, where do I go to get X, Y, and Z? Who do I need to speak to? How do I get there? Please take this one seriously, because it can affect your health. Ask for help if you feel that pressure. Find a solution before it's too late. Okay, so now you've seen my 10 top tips for tackling time. Hopefully we've discussed enough about it, or spent enough time on time. What I've tried to show you is that managing your time is dependent on so many things, and not least of all is you as an individual and your personal preferences and how you work and how you act, who you are. There's so many external factors that come into it too, and it's easy to feel overwhelmed and out of control. But by taking a little bit of a step back and adopting one or two of the tips that I've given you, hopefully you can start to take back a little bit more control and do a bit of research elsewhere as well. I've given you 10 tips. There are 1,000,001 out there. Managing your diary and appointments, seeing where you spend time, all of that can lead to you feeling a lot more in control. The thing I'm going to do as well is add in some of the resources that you'll have seen flying around the screens, so that there's a few PDF downloads for you to action and use, or use as templates to design your own in whatever software you fancy using. But if what I'd like you to do as your task is use the discussion board and let me know what your top tip is. So what have you, if any of the 10 that I've suggested here, have you adopted and used, and how have you found them? So please add that in. If you design your own sheet for, say, the audit or analysis, or your weekly diary or daily diary, please feel free to share, upload, and let us all see it. And also, if you found any other tips that you feel work and you want to share with the community, please do add them in. That's the only task I'm setting you. I feel that some of this can be quite personal, especially if it's related to work, and you may not want to share too much detail online, which is fine, that's good. But what I'd like from you as an individual and as a student is just to share with the community what you've done, what you found useful, and potentially what hasn't been so useful as well. Okay, so on that note, I'll wish you goodbye, and keep an eye out for my future courses. Alright, bye.